Omega males tend to be at the bottom of the male social hierarchy. They have trouble meeting women, making friends, and becoming financially successful. But Omegas feel much happier when they achieve a measure of social status. And because Sigmas understand how the social hierarchy operates, we can offer advice to Omegas that will improve their position. So in this video, we'll offer Omegas some tips. Here are 11 ways that Omega males can improve their social status. Number 11. Stop seeking approval. A lot of Omega males suffer from low self-esteem. It's often because they experienced bullying and intimidation while growing up. They internalized these experiences and now have a low sense of self-worth. The Sigma's advice to Omega males is to become your own judge and your own jury. In this modern culture, everything revolves around shame and social judgment. So people are going to try and shame you for all sorts of stupid reasons. But you can stop caring about what other people think. Instead, you can learn to value your own judgment. A Sigma creates his own moral code and tries to live up to his own high standards. He doesn't need validation from other people. He doesn't need their permission and actively dislikes constantly seeking approval. Number 10. Become more optimistic. For some reason, when Omega males get into conversations, they tend to overshare. In other words, they give people too much information. They often talk about their flaws, character faults, and personal problems. But if you want to rise in status as an Omega male, you have to ignore the negative parts of your life and never bring them up with people you are trying to impress. Understand that people are creatures of narrative. If you tell them a negative story about yourself, you are setting up a bad frame for the relationship. Omegas can learn from Sigmas. A lot of Sigmas have passed through adversity. Many Sigmas have quit their jobs and run risks that didn't work out. Many ended up in very low positions. But if you spoke to a Sigma during these low points in his life, he would have been optimistic and cheerful when speaking to other people, because it makes no sense to be pessimistic during polite conversation. Number 9. Don't fixate on one particular woman. Because Omega males are at the bottom of the social hierarchy, they often struggle to find girlfriends. To make matters worse, many Omegas will often find themselves fixated on one specific woman. They will often attach a type of soulmate fantasy to this person. But if you want to rise in status, you have to start thinking like a high-status man. No Sigma or Alpha has this type of fixation, because these romantic fantasies are usually false. When it comes to flirting, a Sigma will approach a woman once. If she rejects him, he'll immediately move on. He knows that there are billions of women on Earth. There is no need to get hung up on one specific person, especially when it's clear she's not interested. Number 8. Follow social norms. Omegas have spent a lot of time isolated. They've forgotten what it's like to be part of a group. And when you spend a lot of time in isolation, it can affect you psychologically. And over the years, it makes Omegas become a bit clumsy in social situations. So if you want to rise in status as an Omega male, consider just copying what normal people do. This stuff sounds obvious, but Omegas skip the basics. Get your teeth fixed, get them whitened, get a nice haircut, wear stylish clothes, and set up a stable lifestyle with a job, a gym routine, and some hobbies. Start to follow the social norms and learn a bit about how to engage in polite conversation. Often, the Omega just needs to start following social norms a little bit more closely, and then he'll fit in. New experiences will flow into his life, and he'll feel a lot happier when he hits this base level. Number 7. Focus on skill. Often, Omegas cannot pay their bills because they struggle to hold a job down. They struggle to provide for themselves, but they don't realize how much this impacts them psychologically. As a man, you are judged 100% by the value you create. It doesn't matter if you have personality flaws. It doesn't matter if you're awkward or inexperienced. It doesn't even matter if you're a little bit of a loser. None of that matters. The most important thing for a man is whether or not you are generating value, especially within a business setting. So if they want to rise in status, Omegas have to focus hard on their skill sets. When you are skilled and competent, any other personality flaws are secondary. Competence is the solution to many Omega male problems. Number 6. Prioritize self-reliance. A lot of Omega males are overly dependent on their family, usually their parents, or sometimes even receiving money from the government. In both of these cases, the Omega has to rely on other people to keep him alive, and again, this situation will affect you psychologically. Take the Sigma as an example. There is nothing that a Sigma hates more than depending on other people to survive. He is addicted to self-reliance, and he will work himself into a position where he does not need anybody or anything to get him through life. If you reach a similar position, you will experience a type of happiness that you cannot dream of when you are receiving government money or handouts from family. So if you're an Omega male who is still living at home and you want to rise in status, you have to prioritize self-reliance. Number 5. Put away childish things. There's a quote that says, "When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things." And Omega males need to take this advice. Some fully grown men out there still act like big kids, which is fine every once in a while, but when the majority of your time is dedicated to play, or you're still indulged in the habits you had as a child like eating junk food, making childish jokes, if you're still living with your parents at the age of 40 and are not taking responsibility for yourself or your actions, to put it bluntly, it's time to grow up. That is, if you actually do want to improve your life. So if an Omega wants to rise in status, he should adopt the Sigma mentality. A Sigma will evaluate everything that he does by the amount of goodness that it creates for him. So Sigmas will put away childish interests such as binge eating or excessive amounts of video games. Instead, they'll dedicate that time to produce actions that are going to benefit them for the long term. Number 4. Fight your social anxiety. When Omega males find themselves in social situations, they often experience extreme social anxiety. But if you want to rise in status, you're going to have to get over your social timidness. Luckily, it's possible to get over social anxiety, and millions of people have managed. From the Sigma perspective, you can eliminate social anxiety by becoming more courageous. There are simple ways you can do this. Firstly, you can acquaint yourself with violence. Taking up effective combat sports like boxing or wrestling will acquaint you with violence and help you overcome feelings of fear or intimidation. Often when men fear social rejection, they are subconsciously scared of violent consequences. You can also start to accept rejection by working in a job in sales or customer service where you need to deal with rejection day in and day out. Don't forget that even Sigmas experience rejection. Not everybody loves the Sigma male. In fact, Sigmas have all types of haters, and they get rejected from many social circles. That doesn't ruin them or hurt their self-esteem, and it definitely doesn't make them anxious. Number 3. Don't assume the worst about people. Because Omegas have been through so much bullying, they often dislike other people. And often, Omega males will assume the worst about others. For example, if an Omega texts you and you don't respond, he will probably think that you hate him. Or if an Omega male is invited to a social event, he will probably think that you want to humiliate him or laugh at him. He will often assume that you have bad intentions. But if an Omega wants to rise in status, this mentality is counterproductive, because high-status men have to be positive, friendly, and cheerful, even if they don't like the people they're talking to. Number 2. Put resentment behind you. Omega males have to work on forgiveness. If you want to increase your status, you don't want to be one of those guys who obsesses about the ancient past. Most Omega males have gone through bullying or have had an unpleasant past in some way. The point is not to become friends with your tormentors. The point is for you to forgive these people internally. Everybody agrees that resentment is bad. It's bad for the people around you, and it's bad for your psyche. Forgiveness helps you to look towards the future. Now, if you're enjoying the video so far, please do give it a like, as it really helps our channel to grow and allows us to keep making more videos like this. And if you haven't already done so, feel free to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you'll be notified of all our future uploads. And finally, number 1. don't expect too much from people. Omega males have a problem making friends. They often look at other people and think that they have amazing social lives. But in truth, the vast majority of people only have a few close friends. Everybody else is just an acquaintance. For example, when it comes to business, most connections are superficial, and even in social situations, very few people are tight friends. Even among family, most family members are not necessarily with you through thick and thin. If an Omega male wants to rise in status, he has to understand that most people are just casual acquaintances. You have to benefit them in some way. If you can benefit them through your skill sets, they'll be your business acquaintance because you help them make money. If you know how to make jokes or you're a good conversationalist, they'll want to hang out with you because you are fun to be around. But don't confuse these casual acquaintances with deep friendship. People rarely have more than a few close friends. Hopefully this video has given our Omega viewers some ideas on how you can rise in social status. Omegas and Sigmas share many characteristics. For example, they are both disconnected from social hierarchy, although for different reasons. Omegas can rise in status. In fact, out of all men, they stand the best chance of eventually transforming into Sigma males.